Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to be talking about The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, and I'm going to be reviewing the episode and kind of giving you my thoughts as we go along, and so let's get into this. I really enjoyed the first episode, last week, but I really enjoyed this one. I think I may have enjoyed this one more. It was a completely the story had a completely different feel to it. Like last week it was, we had the hype of seeing Rick, and I'm not going to say that we didn't have the hype of seeing Michonne, but overall Rick felt relatively safe where he was. The only real damage that came to him was stuff that he inflicted on himself while he was trying to escape. But he was in a safe place. He had people around him that could keep him safe. Not that he couldn't do that himself, but Michonne is like out on her, not even out on her own, but she's like out in the world where it's dangerous, So this episode to me had a different kind of feel to it. And like the first episode, for me, watching it, had a lot of joy in it. And this episode had a lot of sadness in it. It was just, to me, this was just a heartbreaking episode, just to see what all Michonne went through, just trying to find Rick and then see her break. It was just a lot. She left her kids, and any mother, any parent for that matter, to leave their kids, that's heartbreaking enough. But then to go all through all the things that she went through, it was just, it was hard to watch. It was hard to see her go through these things. But yeah, that's not to say that I didn't like the episode. I really did. I may have actually liked this episode more, but I was happier to see Rick, if that makes any sense, because Rick's my favorite character in the show, in the series. I also like that it picked up right where we left off. So when the episode starts, we see Michonne with the people that she had rescued. So really, when it opens up, Michonne is here in the caravan. It turns out this wasn't a building. This was like a trailer or a camper or something, where they kind of have an office set up for the leader of the caravan group. And Michonne's talking to her, and she's pretty much just asking for help. She's asking for a horse so she can continue on her way to find Rick. And this lady is wanting her to stay with them. This is when we get introduced to I really enjoyed the character Nat. I kind of expected things to go the way they did with him, but anyway, he barges in and he's mad because Aiden and Bailey, that's the people that Michonne met at the end of her time on the main show, he thinks that they're dead. He thinks they got left behind, and he's not happy about it. And it turns out that the leader is actually Aiden's sister, and he's like, how could you do that? How could you leave her? And then he finds out that Michonne rescued them, and so he's going to be Michonne's friend. It's really clear that he doesn't have a whole lot of people that care about him or that he cares about, and he wants to hold on to the people that he loves. And that's really a thing that he and Michonne have in common. So it would make sense that they would become as close as they did so fast. And Nat tries to get Michonne to stay, but she's clearly not going to stay. She has a mission. She's trying to get to Bridger's terminal and try to find out if there's anything else that she can find out about where Rick could be. And I think Nat really respects her for this, but he tries to get her to stay, and when she won't stay, he insists that she be given a horse, and he wants to make her some armor. And that's where I really thought it was neat that we got to find out, that he made the armor, and he tries to discourage her from going north because there's a giant horde there. And he gives her some weapons to fight them. We get I believe they're called the Scream Sticks. So yeah, we find out that Nat made the weaponry that took down the CRM helicopter that Rick was flying and killed Okafor. Michonne takes this weaponry north, and she ends up coming across this giant horde. And I don't think she was prepared for how big it was, but she fires into this group, and she hits what they call a gas man. He explodes, and in the process, his head blows off and hits Michonne and knocks her off her horse. And I think she's kind of realizes that she's just not going to be able to do this, but she's determined. And then it turns out Nat and the Aiden and Bailey and some of the other people that we don't get any names, but the group broke off, and some decided to follow Nat, and Nat went to help Michonne because he knew that she was going to need it. So Nat is the leader of this group that broke away from their main group, the caravan group, and he tells Michonne that they'll take her as far as she needs to go. And it just so happens that as they get closer, they get farther north and they get closer to Philadelphia, they just really kind of run into some trouble that they weren't prepared for. I don't know how far Bridger's terminal is from Philadelphia, but it's clear that the CRM had these attack helicopters patrolling just to kind of keep people from getting close, because they don't want anyone to find their city within the city. So as this group that Michonne's with, and Nat's group, gets closer to Bridger's terminal, they're attacked. Michonne, Nat, Bailey, Aiden, they run. They get separated from the group. They have to fight their way through, struggling to breathe because this is chlorine gas, and they end up taking refuge in some type, I think it's maybe like a store. And the whole group is just in really, really bad shape. So once they get in this building, they're able to lay Aiden down. You know, she's pregnant and she's in the worst shape out of all of them. And Michonne goes to try to find some oxygen. She saw a medical storage room or a cabinet, and she's going to try to go find some kind of oxygen for him. And by the time Michonne gets back, she's struggling too, but by the time she gets back, she's already dead. She's already turned, and Michonne has to put her down. Michonne goes on looking for Bailey and for Nat, and she finds Bailey. He's turned, and she has to put him down. And I kind of saw this coming from Michonne. You know, like I said, her story is she's been through a lot. Her story is just sad, you know. It's a story of loss. It's a story of sacrifice. And it's just heartbreaking. Michonne and Nat go through a long recovery. Well, it feels like a long recovery process. It's like a montage of them with oxygen and trying to get their strength back, and Michonne doing push-ups. And eventually they finally recover enough that they can continue. But Michonne, she doesn't want to lose Nat. You know, she wants him to go back to Alexandria. She draws him a map, but Nat is having nothing to do with it. He wants to go with her. He wants to see this come to an end. He wants to see it come to its closure. He wants to see her find Rick. So back in around the time that Michonne left the main show, she found this logbook in the same boat where she found Rick's stuff, and he had the last place that ship had been was Bridger's Terminal or Bridger's Shipyard. So that's the reason she's trying to get there. So the two continue on their way, and when they get there, they don't find anything promising. They just find a destroyed ship and a bunch of bodies that have been burned, and they've been burned without their shoes on, and so it doesn't look good for her finding Rick here. So afterward, it gets dark, and Michonne and Nat, you know, they have this talk, and Nat pretty much gets through to her that he's probably gone, but she can still believe that. And Michonne has her moment. You know, Rick had his moment where he kind of gave up, and this is Michonne's moment where she gives up. She realizes that she just needs to go back to Alexandria, and you know, Nat can go with her, and she can go back and be with Judith and RJ, and she can just believe that maybe he might be out there somewhere, that Rick might be out there. And it just so happens that the next day, as they're on their way back to Alexandria, Nate hears a helicopter, and you know, he wants to fight, you know, and so does Michonne. They're not going to run. They want to shoot this thing down, and Nat has the ability to do so, and they want a little revenge for what happened to their people. And then we see the attack that we saw at the end of the first episode. Nat shoots the helicopter down. He takes out some of the soldiers, and Michonne moves in to finish them off when they're disoriented, and just so happens to find Rick. You know, Michonne and Rick, they have their moment, they have their kiss, and then Nat's talking to Michonne, and in the process, while he's talking to Michonne, finding out that is in fact Rick, and they found Rick. He got to see it out. He gets shot by one of the soldiers that was knocked down by the blast. But Rick knows that they're still in danger, at least that Michonne's in danger, so he kind of briefs her on what she needs to do, what she needs to say, and he has to hold a gun on her, and they take her back to the CRM. So after they get back to the CRM, Michonne is interviewed, and she becomes a consignee, and Rick has to work on a plan for her. They have to work out a plan together for them to escape. They meet up, and you know, Rick's able to talk to her a little bit. Michonne wants to bring the whole thing down, and she hasn't seen everything that Rick has. Rick kind of hints that he's tried to escape before, and he just couldn't get back to her. And there's just a lot that they're going to have to catch up on. It's only after they leave each other from their secret meeting that we find out that someone's seen the interview with Michonne, and you know, it's pretty clear that it's Jadis at this point. Rick goes back to his apartment, and Jadis is there, and she lets him know, you know, she knows that's Michonne. She knows Michonne's there, and she again threatens to kill Michonne and, you know, everybody back at Alexandria, just kind of like how Okafor did, just so they can try to keep their secret. And this is all foreshadowing, you know, there's going to be a fight between Rick or Michonne and Jadis. You know, it's coming. We've seen the stuff in the trailers, and you know, we know it's coming. And I really feel like they're going to have to kill Jadis. Jadis just has to die here. Overall, you know, I think this was a really great episode. It was very sad. What did you think? What did you think of this episode? How do you think it compares to the first episode? So that's really all I have for you for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, maybe, you know, give me a sub, and so you don't miss any of my Walking Dead content or any of the other content that I do. And I will see you guys in the next video.